It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Here we are. We are back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It is 100 degrees in L.A. for the start of the World Series tonight. Of course, we'll have every pitch of every game right here on ESPN radios. But the Dodgers and the Astros are not the only ones bringing the heat on this Tuesday morning. How about Carson Wentz? How about Fly, Eagles, Fly? Mike Golick, your old team, as voiced by John Gruden last night, is right now the best team in the National Football League.
They are the best team in the NFL. They're a complete team in the NFL, 6-1, 2.5 game lead over Washington. They swept the season series. Now, Carson Wentz, you want to talk about the definition of first-year to second-year improvement. He is there right now, leading the league in touchdowns with 17. His escapability is just fantastic, getting out of trouble. The defense plays well. I do worry about the secondary a little bit. The running game, they have a lot of attempts, but they're not a great yardage rushing team at times, but they do get the attempts. Actually, Carson Wentz led the team in rushing last night. But they got it all going on. Bad, and we'll talk about it, bad injury with Jason Peters. They're all everything left tackle. It looks like he's going to be done for the season. That certainly is going to hurt them. But they're playing very well right now. They are. They're the best team in the NFL, and the reason they're the most complete team right now in the NFL, and it shows.
Right. If you're going to look for negatives, and there's no reason to be looking for them, but there are two. One of them is the goal is not to be the best team in the NFL after 7 weeks.
Exactly right.
We see that sort of come and go all the time. And the other is the team that winds up standing at the end is going to be the one that winds up standing at the end. So you lose a critical piece. Yep. That's obviously significant. But if you just watch them play and you watch that quarterback play, you say to yourself, my goodness, how good they are. And I'm sorry to do it. I'm sorry to the people in Cleveland to do it. But every time I watch him play, the only thought I have is, there's a team that traded out of the spot of drafting him.
Could have had him. Absolutely right. The Cleveland Browns traded out and passed on Carson Wentz. Could have had that guy. Again, it's a crapshoot. We know that with quarterbacks in the first round, the odds of them hitting or not hitting. So it all goes on grade, all goes on what you feel. And in Cleveland, they had the kind of the new way of doing things, of loading up on draft picks, and that's the way they wanted to go. And, boy, they may be eating that one for a little while.
Absolutely. And now the flip side of that is so much of it also has to do with the situation that a player finds himself in.
Yes,
exactly. If you're Carson Wentz, you couldn't have found yourself in a better situation with a quarterback-friendly system and a quarterback-friendly head coach, and you listen to the praise, the unanimous praise at this point around the league for Doug Peterson and the job they've done bringing Wentz along. A lot of those things go hand in hand. Who knows what he'd be now if he'd been drafted in Cleveland.
I think, let's just say at this point, if he were in Cleveland, they probably still wouldn't be 6-1. I would feel pretty comfortable in saying that. But you do have to give a lot of credit to Doug Peterson. John Gruden broke down a great play at the goal line that Carson Wentz used a ton in college. And when he got here to the Philadelphia Eagles, he talked with Doug Peterson about, hey, this is a great play. I'd like to incorporate this. And it's about coaches understanding what their players can do and incorporating their talents. We see it in Tennessee with Mariota. You see it in other places as well, where you use the quarterback's talent from college in plays they're comfortable with, and you incorporate it into their game plan, and you can get some good results.
There are also some of the intangibles. Many of them you can't see. You can't measure what a guy's going to be like when he's gotten hit 12 times and he's got to get up there and still throw a big pass on third down. Maybe you can't tell that from meetings and interviews. But what you can tell, and the thing I think you can tell anyway, and the thing that everyone says about him is the extraordinary professionalism. I mean, the first guy in, last guy out, all that kind of stuff. But right now, Carson Wentz, who has played all of 23 games in the National Football League, if you were to stop the league right now and say, who's the MVP, would it be him?
I think right now I have two awards that are done. He's the MVP, and Josh Adams from Notre Dame is the Heisman winner. I think we have those two awards pretty much locked up, right?
All of a sudden, Golick cares about the Heisman.
It's the greatest award of all time.
All you've done is criticize the Heisman. Ever since the day Tim Brown walked off the podium with one is the last time you cared about it.
But if you're going to give it out, okay, I know they're listen, every December they give this thing out every year, so if you're going to do it, let's give it to the right guy.
So maybe we'll give that one to the Notre Dame kid. And is Wentz right now the current favorite for the MVP? There's only one player in Eagles history who was named the MVP by the Associated Press. It was not Mike Golick.
No, it was not.
It was not Reggie White.
No, it was not.
It was not Randall Cunningham.
No, it was
someone who played a lot longer ago than that. Do you know who it was?
I don't.
It was Norm Van Brocklin in 1960.
It's a couple of years ago.
Is the only Eagle ever to be named the league MVP. Right now, I think if he were to stop the league right now, it would be Brady and Wentz. I think. I
agree.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, Brady was carrying a bad defense.
Kareem Hunt is going to get some votes for even though he's a rookie for what he's doing, but he's not going to be he's not going to be up with those guys. But it's a name at least you should mention. And we've got a lot more season to go. But I would say those two guys, yes, Brady and Wentz.
And so there you have it after the Monday Nighter. Let's get going here with Off the Top, and we'll start with some basketball. And the Greek Freak just keeps putting up ridiculous numbers for the Milwaukee Bucks. Mike, he is now the betting favorite for league MVP in Las Vegas.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Antetokounmpo.
Wanted to get the name. I tried in there. Second player in NBA history to average at least 35 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists over his team's first 4 games of the season. Joining happened a long time ago, gang. Last year, Russell Westbrook did it. So,
and what did Russell Westbrook wind up doing?
Yeah, he ended up being the league MVP. We keep talking about this guy and what he is and when he's going to rise up and be the guy. We know the top players, obviously Westbrook, Harden, who was right there, Durant, LeBron, all guys, that have the hardware like that. And this guy Antetokounmpo his athletic ability is ridiculous for his size and what he's able to do. So he's fun to watch individually. Let's see what he can do with the team as well.
We keep talking about guys who are going to change the league, right? Anthony Davis was going to change the league, and Karl Anthony Towns is going to change the league, and Joel Embiid is going to change the league, and Kristaps Porzingis is going to change the league. This guy's the guy.
Well, and when you can be put in with another name like this, he has 147 points overall this season, passing some guy named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for most in Bucks history through the team's first 4 games of a season. How much more can you change it? I mean, we see big guys playing away from the basket. Basically, he's a big guy that may be the best, most athletic big guy. I don't know how you change the game anymore with how great athletes these guys are.
The thing is, when we talk about guys like Davis and particularly Towns, we say they're the bigs that almost have some guard skills. This guy's a guard. I mean, if you told him he had to play guard, he could. And at 6'11" or whatever it is that he is, he's ridiculous. He is genuinely the Greek freak. Speaking of which, Ben Simmons is a legit 7 feet tall. He had his first career triple-double last night, and something tells me, Mike, it won't be his last.
Yeah, the only other players in NBA history who had triple-doubles within their first 4 games in the league were the Big O, Oscar Robertson, in his debut for the Cincinnati Royals back in 1960, and Hambone Williams in his 4th game for the San Diego Rockets in 1967. We wanted to see Ben Simmons. We got a couple of guys that just have come into the league. Fultz, who's the number 1 pick this past year, and Simmons, who didn't go to the NCAA tournament. Simmons missed all of last year. If you go to Philly, that's kind of how it works. And he's come out of the gate strong. How about Joel Embiid, what he did? His teammate in just his 34th NBA game after signing a monster deal scored 30 points in Philly's win. So you had a triple-double by one and 30 points by another. We've talked about the youth there, and if they can bring it together of how they could rise up in the league, I still think it's going to take a little bit of time, but boy, the future seems pretty bright there.
Off the top.
Meanwhile, the future for Eric Bledsoe is elsewhere, and the circumstances of this thing in Phoenix are crazy. Now, there's a lot of teams out there that would like Eric Bledsoe. He's a good player. He's not going to be on the Suns anymore, and the circumstances of his departure are really remarkable.
They really are. So he's a guy, now let's put it in context a little bit. He's a guy before the season that wanted out. He wanted to be traded before the season started, so you kind of knew that about him. But then he posted a tweet that simply said, "I don't want to be here." And basically,
bear in mind, this is right after they fired their coach after 3 games.
Right. And
I think it's important to put that in context because everyone will immediately look at it and think that's the reason he tweeted it.
Their GM, Ryan McDonough, said that he talked to Bledsoe, and after the conversation, didn't believe him in saying when Bledsoe said he didn't want to be here when he was referring to being at a hair salon with his girl, and he didn't want to be there anymore. That's what he said he meant by, I don't want to be here. McDonough, the GM, didn't believe him. He's not part of the team anymore. They'll look to trade him. Interesting little note here, by the way, is if you look at his timeline, Eric Bledsoe is a very big tweeter with no context. You'll see that in his timeline where you just see prayers or tired today or no context around some of his tweets.
Right. Meaning something like, I don't want to be here.
Isn't out of what he has done, what we've seen in his timeline. Now, that said, I don't believe him, and Ryan McDonough, the GM, doesn't believe him, but wouldn't it be interesting if that were true? And like my son said this morning on a show, First and Last, it's refreshing if he is lying, it's refreshing that he didn't use the I got hacked line, and he came up with something a little different.
Yeah, and if he's telling the truth,
wouldn't that be something?
Then it doesn't mean that they shouldn't still trade him.
Right. He did want to be traded, talked about wanting to be traded before the season started, so it doesn't seem he's very happy.
We have reports that the Knicks are one of the teams interested
Off the top.
in him. Okay, World Series begins tonight. As we mentioned, I got a million stats for you, but the most interesting one right off the bat is that it's 100 degrees in Los Angeles.
Yes, it is.
And Dallas Keuchel is going to be pitching with quite a large beard. I can't imagine the amount of perspiration that will be dripping from the Astros starter by the bottom of the first.
Yeah, they're talking about the game time for this being 96 degrees. The warmest World Series game in that span was Game 1 in 2001 World Series, Arizona and the Yankees and Diamondbacks. It was 94 degrees at the start of that game.
That's a dry heat, though. It's Arizona.
Well, it is a dry heat. There is definitely something to that, but it is hot. And 96 degrees is going to be hot. So we'll see. I would rather play in cold weather any day of the week.
But you played football.
But I played football. How about last year, though, between Chicago and Cleveland?
You had some chilly nights.
Don't look like you're going to get that here in the two places you're going to play, in Houston and in L.A. So, and then as far as numbers, this is the first World Series matchup of 100-win teams since 1970. You go back to that one, Orioles and the Reds in 1970. The last time you had 200-win teams.
That surprised me. I've seen that stat a little bit as we lead up to this. I would have thought it would have happened more recently than that, but it hasn't. And the one thing about the two things I guess you would have to consider with the temperature. One, does that impact the starters? Right? I mean, you got Kershaw and Keuchel. So here's a pitching matchup that you're dying to see. Does it speed up fatigue? Do they get into such a zone that it almost doesn't make any difference? I don't know. We'll see if that causes them to be shorter starts. And the other is, anyone who plays golf knows the hotter it is, the more the ball carries.
That's exactly right.
So do we see the ball carry a little bit in the ballpark tonight?
Yeah, again, and we have a ton of numbers. The seventh inning for Clayton Kershaw in the postseason isn't very good. What's his ERA? 25.
Yeah.
I believe it's
He's not kidding. It's literally that.
It is literally 25. I'm not even making that up.
Yeah.
And the great note about the Astros, it's their second World Series. In the first one, they were swept by the White Sox in the 2005 World Series, which means they were in the National League.
Yeah,
and now
they're the first team ever to represent both leagues in the World Series. And then finally, the Eagles beating Washington last night to improve to a league best 6-1 this year. Let's make that off the top with us, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from range of coverage options with the Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you. The Eagles, who put some space between themselves and the entirety of the NFC East, and bear in mind they now own a season sweep of Washington. So they're not only in front of the Skins, they're very comfortably in front of them. Dallas, let's see what they are with Zeke Elliott. He's in, he's out, he's playing, he's not playing. I don't know how much you read into the fact that they destroyed a very bad San Francisco team this week. So let's forget about whether the Eagles are the best team in the league or not, because A, we don't know, and B, it doesn't really matter. But are they very much in the driver's seat in the NFC East, which is a good first step? They absolutely are. And show me another team that's in the driver's seat in an NFC division. I defy you to. You won't be able to do it.
No, you won't be able to do it. They are in total control of their division. They're playing like as the best team in football right now. And you love the way Carson Wentz is spreading the ball around for the second time this year. 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers. I mean, that's beautiful when you can't zero in on the one guy, even though the one guy, if you're going to zero in, is going to be the guy he has the great relationship with, and that's Zach Ertz,
right?
The tight end. Zach Ertz has 5 touchdowns this year. That's tops amongst tight ends. And as we mentioned, Wentz was also the leading rusher with 64 yards. Watching him get out of some of the issues or some of the positions that he was in when you thought the Redskins had 3 sacks on him and could have had a few more. But I know a couple of times they thought the whistle was going to blow. They thought they had him in their grasp, but he got out and the whistle didn't blow. Play went on and he made something happen, whether by running or by throwing. He is really resilient from that. And man, he just looks so comfortable and in command in that pocket.
There were a couple of moments in last night's game that I actually thought of you. The touchdown that he throws where he kind of maneuvers himself around in the pocket a bunch of times and then lofts it in the right corner of the end zone. In the NFL, 10 years ago, I don't think that play is a touchdown. And the reason is because 10 years ago, he is getting annihilated on that play. And right now, if you watch a lot of games, and I saw it a couple of times last night, I feel like defenders are so conscious of how they're hitting the quarterback, where they're hitting the quarterback, that sometimes I feel, and look, this is, I think, the way the league wants it. The quarterback is taking advantage of that. He's less afraid. Now, again, the kid is obviously very tough.
Yes, he is.
But he's also not afraid to stand in there because he knows they can't hit him in the head. He knows they can't hit him in the knee. And, there was a time when he would have just gotten so drilled on that play that maybe it would have been a touchdown, but he would not have played the rest of the game.
Defenders are in a tough position, whether it's DBs on where to hit a receiver, defenseless player, as they say, and yes, I'm using air quotes, or hit the quarterback. You're right. We saw more than a few calls on Sunday where I'm just like, are you kidding? That's a tackle of the quarterback and a flag comes out. So, yeah, making defenders a little bit gun shy. Get it? Because A, you don't want to cost your team 15 yards, and B, you don't want to be fined. Because if you hit him in the head, it doesn't matter what the situation is, you're at fault if that were to happen. Bottom line is it's 17 touchdown passes in the first 7 games. So the most touchdown passes in the first 7 games in a first or second year player in NFL history. The leader all time back in 1999, Kurt Warner with 21, 1984, Dan Marino with 20, 2000, Jeff Garcia with 19. And tied next in 2017 and 1957 are Carson Wentz and Johnny Unitas.
Wow!
With in their first or second year, 17 touchdowns in the first 7 games. So they got it going on right now. They really do. And again, both offensively and defensively, playing extremely well.
Steve Young and Charles Woodson after the game, impressed.
No question. I mean, they're playing. The Redskins didn't fall down. I mean, Kirk Cousins had a good game. I mean, they need some players, but
they're pretty even in a lot of categories.
What we just talked about offensive defensively, there's no place the Eagles can't pack their bags and go and beat somebody anywhere.
I think I would have to agree, and it all lies on Carson Wentz's shoulder. You talk about Pennsylvania, before. Man, he is directing and directing this show, man, and he's doing a great job. So, Philadelphia Eagles, they're the team.
He is directing the show, sitting there with 17 touchdowns. Alex Smith has 15 touchdowns. Tom Brady has 15 touchdowns. So they do have it going on right now, but it's also a game of attrition. And you remember last year, Lane Johnson, their right tackle, he was lost for 10 games by suspension. And that it certainly changed for the Eagles because that O-line had been playing well. And it changed when he was out for those games. And last night, so this is the negative side of it. We can talk a lot of glowing positive things, and they had the 49ers coming to town this week. So quite honestly, it should be another win for them. They should keep rolling. But it's not about now. When you're 6-1, you take obviously each game one at a time, but you realize the goals that you're going for, that you're trying to achieve, and where you need to be at the end of the season. And it looks like that their Pro Bowl, All-Pro, All-Everything left tackle Jason Peters won't be a part of it. He got rolled up on one of those plays where he's just pass blocking, and all the trash that happened behind him ends up right into his legs, and they have to immobilize his knee and cart him off the field. Brandon Scherff, the All-Pro, Pro Bowl right guard for the Washington Redskins, same thing happened to him. He was walking around on the sideline, but he didn't come back in, so we have to see about his injury as well. That's the O-lineman. That's what you fear the most, is because you have no idea what's coming. You're blocking, and all of a sudden somebody falls into the side of your legs or the back of your legs, and you're done. And that's what it looks like it's going to be for Jason Peters. Understand something. Two of the best left tackles in this game, both have been to 9 Pro Bowls, have been Jason Peters and Joe Thomas. And within a day apart, they're both done for the season. Joe Thomas, after 10,363 plays, tears his triceps. He's done for the year. And here's the difference. I believe, and he was 2003, and I think Peters was 2004 in the draft. So Joe Thomas was the number 3 pick overall in the draft. So out of Wisconsin, the expectations were very high, right? Of course. He was a tackle in college. He was a tackle in the pros and never left that spot. Jason Peters, this is how it works sometimes with players. I believe it was 2004 that he was drafted, 9 Pro Bowls. He's 35 years old. He's from Arkansas. He was a tight end at Arkansas. He went undrafted as a tight end at Arkansas. And so I got a $5,000 signing bonus and became a left tackle and became one of the great left tackles through his era without question. So 2 guys, the best at their position for a number of years, came into the league a year apart, came at it differently, but the end result the same is they're some of the best in the league.
And unfortunately now, as you mentioned, we know that Thomas is done for the year, and we haven't gotten a full status report on Peters, but you could see.
You could see, and you probably have Lane Johnson now flip over to the left side, but, now you're shuffling your line a little bit, and we'll see where it goes, and we'll check out their depth.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home, safe home.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Kenny Killian tweets early at us through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Hot is better than freezing and snow. I hated when the Tigers were in the World Series wearing ninja masks. Mike, what did you say Mikey's poll was this morning?
Mike's poll was 100 or 10. Would you rather watch a sporting event in 100 degrees or in 10 degrees? Now, at baseball, I mean...
You wouldn't want to see a baseball game. I don't think they play in 10 degrees.
Exactly.
And you wouldn't want to see a baseball game played in that. So
no.
That's but purely for the fan experience. So let's put it in the context of football. You really wouldn't want to play a football game in 100 degrees either.
No, you would not.
But the game in Miami with the Jets and the Dolphins this past weekend, it looked like it was incredibly hot.
Hate it. Hate the heat. Hate the humidity. The poll, by the way, was 51% said 10 degrees, 49 100. So almost split there. Again, it depends on the sport. In football, I'd be interested. That's really the one. If you're a fan, would you rather be in 10 degrees or 100 degrees? I mean, the thing about 10 degrees is you can put clothes on. You can layer. 100 degrees, you can only take so much off.
Can I ask a caveat?
Go ahead.
Is that 10 degrees inclusive of wind chill, or is that like a 10-degree temperature? Because it can be 10 degrees, but feels like negative 21.
Yeah. No.
In that case, I'll take 100.
10 degrees with wind chill,
then
whole
I'll
deal.
Take 10 degrees. Then I'll take 10. Because that's not that cold. I mean, it's cold, but that's the kind of cold you can manage with a bunch of sweaters and coats and scarves.
Sitting next to people.
Negative 21. Once you start getting down to that stuff.
I'm with you.
That's when it's just no fun at all.
Yeah, well, the coldest game I played was in the Meadowlands. The wind chill was in the negative teens, and it was cold. And I, was that dumb macho guy that would never wear a long sleeve shirt under my jersey and my pads, and I didn't in that one. And it was just dumb. I mean,
we would go to those games, my dad and I, when I was a kid at Shea Stadium, where the wind would blow through, and I don't have any idea what the actual coldest game was. And those days, I don't think anyone even knew. It was just cold as could possibly be outside. But we would always stay. I told you, we never left the game. If it was 31-0, we're not leaving before it ended. And my mother would load us up with coats, and we had a big blanket that we had in the trunk of the car that we'd bring in, and I would have like a thermos. My mother would make like chicken.
Yeah.
Like bouillon, we'd
have that at halftime. We would have at cold games when I was playing at halftime. As players, we'd have the bouillon. Yes,
that's when I learned what a flask was. Because my dad and I are drinking chicken broth, and the guys in front of us are like drinking out of a flask. I remember asking my father. I was like 7. Oh, what are they drinking, Dad?
A different kind on a broth.
That's when I learned what that was. Anyway, keep the Twitter coming in, and again, it's going to be a hashtag Too Far Tuesday, so let's hear those as well. For example, Bucky J tweets one. I don't think this is anywhere near too far. He tweets, Clayton Kershaw will struggle for 4 2/3, and the Astros win on the road for Game 1. That's not too far at all.
I don't think that's too far. That's what we're waiting for with Kershaw is to come through in the postseason. So we'll see. Again, the 7th inning in the postseason, his ERA is literally 25. So, I mean, something to keep an eye on if he were to get that far in the game. But this is the matchup you're looking for. You're looking for Kershaw against Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge. I'm saying if the Yankees say Aaron Judge. I'm saying like Correa and Altuve. Yeah. And, I mean, I'm just the hitting on both sides, to which we had Buster Olney on yesterday, and he said, the hitting he thought was kind of a pick-em for both teams. So it will be, and in the heat, we know the offense, the ball will fly a little more. So how much more will it fly? I still get a kick out of Altuve every time he's at bat when I look at him, thinking this guy is 5'6". This guy's going to be your AL MVP. He's 5'6", but man, he is fun to watch.
He is, and I was talking to someone about him over the weekend. He's short, but he's not small.
No, he's not. He's not.
Agreed. If you look at him, he's kind of stocky.
Yep.
And now look, he's just a great player. What can you say? He's a great player.
Well, he is, and the difference of him and then Correa at shortstop, who's 6'4", this good-looking big athlete, and then Altuve at second base, all 5'6" of them.
So the other thing that's interesting to watch in this series, just to start throwing numbers out there, I was going to get to it in a minute anyway, so let's do it here. In a sport, at a time in the sport where everyone is either hitting home runs or striking out, the Astros don't strike out.
No.
They're the one team in the whole sport that doesn't strike out, or at least they strike out the least. I have stacks and stacks of stats for you leading into these games, and Hembo put together some really good nerd notes as well. But the Astros struck out in only 17% of their plate appearances in the regular season, the lowest in baseball. Now, the fact that that's the lowest in baseball is in and of itself pretty funny, if you think about it.
Yes.
They struck out almost 1 out of every 5 at-bats, and that's the lowest in baseball. But that's where we are right now. So, by comparison, they don't strike out all the time. The Dodgers want to strike. Kershaw wants to throw it right past you and through you. So it's a fascinating matchup. I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well. Yeah.
I know that, the TV networks probably were hoping the Yankees would get in.
Yep.
What are you going to do? It's a great matchup. Both teams won 100 games. They were the best teams in their respective league. Well, actually, Cleveland was the best team in the American League.
Let's not open that wound. But yeah, I'm with you. So I am looking forward to it. So the Too Far Tuesday certainly can include the World Series as well, like some of these have. We'll give away a couple of bobbleheads for the best Too Far Tuesdays.
Daryl tweets, my wish for an all-Pennsylvania Super Bowl is a real possibility.
I was asked that. I went out with Sean Salisbury, old buddy. I went on his show because we had a bet on the USC Notre Dame game, and now he owes me dinner when we see each other at the Super Bowl.
That's all you got was dinner. But a lot of our bets are,
listen,
Sean doesn't have to shave his head or anything.
No, we're gonna let Sean go on that one. Bragging rights in that one is fantastic. Yeah. So especially the way Notre Dame beat them. So that'll work. Every bite of food I take, I'll be talking trash about that game.
All right, if I told you right now, the state of Pennsylvania will be represented in this year's Super Bowl, but once, not twice, which one you taking?
Well, first off, he had asked me the two best teams right now, and I had said Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. I think the way Pittsburgh, and we know what you get out of their offense. We know what they can do. Their defense is playing lights out.
They're playing much better.
They are playing lights out right now. And to me, that's going to be the big difference because you can get something out of that offense.
Are they going to trade Martavis Bryant?
I don't know.
I ran into Ryan Clark in the hallway yesterday, and he said to me, look, the Steelers don't make a habit of trading away good players. Just
they don't.
He wants to get traded.
Listen.
Now, from what it appears from the outside, and again, I don't want to cast aspersions, it appears he's really trying to force their hand, right? All of a sudden he wants to be traded, then he's calling in sick.
Which he's done before.
He wants out of there. There's just all that noise around the Steelers. That when they win, it sort of quiets down a little bit.
It does. Listen, if they think this guy can give them a couple of catches a game and help toward the win, they're not going to trade him. How much of a distraction will he make himself become if he wants to do that off the field? We'll have to wait and see. But, yeah, they're not in the habit of just saying, oh, you're not happy? We're sure. Where do you want to go? We'll trade you there. So
if we want to say the three best teams in the AFC are Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and New England, they have this funny thing where they each kind of have each other's number.
Right.
The perception is Kansas City has New England's number. New England has Pittsburgh's number, and Pittsburgh has Kansas City's number. That's the way it works. So the matchups, depending on how they fall, might have a lot to do with where it goes. What other team crashes that party? Houston?
Who are the sleepers in there?
Well, is Houston a sleeper?
How about Buffalo?
Okay.
You know?
I mean, I'm willing to have that conversation with you.
But you're asking me right now, and Sean asked me last night, I'd say Pittsburgh because of the way their defense is playing. I'm still not sold on the defense of the Patriots, which played better, no doubt about it. And the weapons, obviously, they have on offense. So while I picked New England at the beginning of the season, you ask me now, I lean toward Pittsburgh. I won't completely dismiss my preseason picks, but going now, I look at them, and then you have, I don't think, how can you not go with Philadelphia in the NFC? I think that's the easier choice. Who else you saying in the NFC? Aaron Rodgers is gone, so you're certainly not saying Green Bay. So where else?
New Orleans outscore them?
You know,
could the Rams beat them? Are the Rams? Could you imagine if it comes down to Goff against Wentz?
There's the sleeper with the Rams, man, and what they're doing. Again, the defense is ranked lower, but they have a ton of sacks. I like Philly's defense. The secondary nerves me a little bit there.
Goff and Wentz at this moment, and again, it's Too Far Tuesday. Okay, so let's go a little bit too far. How far are we willing to go? Are Goff and Wentz going to create the kind of quarterback, the kind of talk about a quarterback draft, two guys who were drafted in the same year and will always be compared to each other, et cetera? Are they on the verge of doing that in a way that, right now, which is the better quarterback draft? Jameis and Mariota at the top or Goff and Wentz?
Well, wow.
Only 1 year separates them, right? Jameis and Mariota were just 1 year. Are they 1 or 2 years older? I think they're just one. This is just their third year? Right, Jameis and Mariota.
Yes, it's their
Time goes
third
by so
year.
darn fast. It's kind of hard to keep track of it sometimes. This is their third year, and this is Wentz and Goff second. Which is the better top of the quarterback draft?
What a great question that is. I mean, you go arrows now. You're going to Wentz and Goff
this week, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Arrows, which is I think they're both arrow up. It's which one is one may be at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, the other may be at 12 o'clock. Which arrow is pointing higher if you want to delineate there.
Let's talk about it as we continue. Use the hashtag Too Far Tuesday. We got that working all morning long. We'll give away some bobbleheads as well. I still have to play you Louis Riddick talking about Carson Wentz. I still have to play you Dallas Keuchel talking about how his beard might get in the way, and we still have to get to two players who offered apologies even though they had nothing to be sorry for. All right, we got a ton of really good Twitter here. Too Far Tuesday, hashtag Too Far Tuesday has become my favorite day of the week. Here's one from Ryan Guffey. He tweets, Too Far Tuesday, Michigan fires Harbaugh. He comes to Indy to coach Luck. Ooh. There's no way in the world Michigan fires Harbaugh, and I don't believe, and I don't think you do either, that he leaves there until maybe winning a national championship is too far.
Winning the Big Ten, beating Ohio State. I mean, things I talked about at the beginning of the year when everybody thought I was calling for his job, which I clearly was not.
Right.
I was saying
I don't think and no one who listened to you thought you were calling for his job.
Well,
you were just asking a question.
You should have read some of the tweets from Michigan fans about that.
Well, because that, you know what it is, that's a game of telephone.
I get it.
Where someone tells someone. The next thing you know, Golick, who was wondering aloud when the Michigan faithful would demand wins in big games.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, that comes out to Golick says he's going to get fired, which is
ridiculous.
He didn't say anything close to it.
I think he ends up back in the NFL, but I don't think he ends up back there until he at least has exhausted his opportunities to, make Michigan the Big Ten champ, to beat Ohio State, and because he's already turned that program around to what it was when he got there. But now he needs to take that next step with him, and I think that he wants to do that before he heads back to the NFL.
Anyway, read me one more that you like here. If these get on to some other business.
I do like the I like that one. The Cowboys reclaim their dominant swag and take over the NFC East from Philly.
Hashtag Too Far Tuesday.
That's going to be an interesting one because Philly's playing well right now with Zeke. Zeke is played great last week. But you don't know what's going to go on. For all we know, after the next game, he could be on the bench. He could be suspended. So we don't know that. And that will be – you kind of have to wait and see how that one plays out because that will have a great effect on their team.
I also hate to say this, but don't read too much into the Cowboys' performance against San Francisco. A lot of teams are going to put up a lot of big numbers against the 49ers. They're 0-7 for a reason. When do those teams play? I'm looking this up here.
By the way,
Philly play each other. They play home. They play in Dallas on a Sunday night, November 19th, and then they play the last game of the season. So December 31st, they finish the season at Philly. Do you see that game being for the division? Do you think Dallas puts together a good enough second half that game is for the division?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say I think Philly's going to have it wrapped up by then.
I'm going to say yes. And the Cowboys are going to start winning games. I think it's going to get closer. Look, I mean, everything I picked in that division is wrong. I have the Giants winning that division,
right,
and they may wind up with the number 1 pick in the draft, or the way everything is going. I did pick the Eagles to make the playoffs, but at this point, Nostradamus, I most certainly am not. So if you're asking me what my gut feeling is right now, I think the Cowboys are better than they've played, and I think they'll play their way back into contention. Mike and Mike and all the Too Far Tuesday Twitter through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes up for a football obsession like bouquets from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen red or assorted roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen plus a vase absolutely free. So go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Okay, 2 players said they were sorry. In at least one of the cases, I don't think he had anything at all to be sorry
I
for.
agree. I thought I was going to say play the one because you had teased that neither one should had to do that, and we're going to disagree on that if you truly feel that way on T.Y. Hilton.
Right, we're going to disagree on that one. I may have gone a little too far Tuesday with that. There's the old truth is the best defense.
Yeah.
Like you can't, we'll go start with that one then since you bring it up. So T.Y. Hilton after the game basically threw the offensive line under the bus.
He gave up 10 sacks. He jumped, he jumped them.
And should he have done it? Obviously no. But in the world of journalism, in the world of media, which is libel and slander, truth is the absolute defense. So just put the tape on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not just this week, but every week of the offensive line play for the Colts, and you'll realize T.Y. Hilton was every bit right in what he said. Yesterday he apologized.
I'd like to apologize to the team and the O-line. It was out of character. I'm frustrated, how the game went. But at the end of the day, man, I got their back. I love them to death. And, I was wrong, I'm always against that, and then I go out there and do it. So 100% I messed up, all me. And I'm sorry for that. And, I'm a leader. Those guys look up to me, and I kind of stabbed them in the back.
Yeah, listen, he was exactly right about their play and exactly wrong to chastise them publicly without question. You know who knows that they played poorly? The offensive line. And and this is because I'm sure a lot of people are like, he's just telling the truth. What's the big deal? You know what the big deal is? Wednesday and Thursday, when the media come in there or they're talking to the networks and about, going through their game plans and all that, and they're asked, hey, what did you think about T.Y. Hilton about what he said about you guys? T.Y., why did you say that about those guys? Who were you talking about? Are you talking about anybody in particular? That's why you don't do it, because you don't need that crap to keep going. You're already a bad team. Everybody knows when you're in that meeting room who's wearing the hat of responsibility. There's a lot of people, including the offensive line. They know they're not playing well. Everybody on that team knows they're not playing well. Hell, watch the game. You can see they're not playing well. You don't need a player to say that publicly. It just leads to questions that you don't need to deal with. So the best thing to do is you take the arrow as a team. We got to get better. And believe me, they're hearing it in the meeting rooms for the mistakes they're making. You do not need to do it publicly. So I'm happy he came out and he apologized and realized he was wrong for doing that.
Yes, you're right. I know you're right.
Yeah.
And still,
yeah.
Did you see much of that game? Red Zone didn't go to it much.
No,
it was 34-0. But I mean, Jacoby Brissett is running for his life back there. There were people asking him after the game, "Why didn't you come out of the game? It's not safe to play quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts right now." That's how bad the offense against a great Jacksonville pass.
Bad. It's bad. Yeah, not the first week we've seen a bad O-line play there.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have said it. He was right to say I'm sorry, but I kind of get it. The next one, I don't get at all. We'll get to that and more off the top of the next hour. Mike and Mike.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit Geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
Here we are, Mike and Mike, back and better than ever, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. In this hour, they'll include Rob Manfred, Commissioner Major League Baseball. World Series starts tonight. Tomorrow at this time, We'll have John Gruden and Kirk Herbstreit back-to-back. Gruden and Herbie every Wednesday in this hour on Mike and Mike.
I got a bone to pick with Herbie.
Well, listen, you made that very clear yesterday. Have you cleared the air with Herbie?
No, I didn't clear the air with him. Absolutely not. Again, the reason is last week I thought College Game Day, the great College Game Day show, would go to Notre Dame, USC. They went to Penn State, Michigan. Okay, understandable. Cool, understand. Neither one was a great game. So afterward, Notre Dame wins, Penn State wins. Penn State's going to Ohio State, who was on a bye. Notre Dame is going to play North Carolina State, another ranked team, another big game. So I thought game day, maybe go to Notre Dame. Maybe I could be the celebrity picker. I never got to do that. No, they're going to Columbus. They've already been to Columbus. They're going back to Columbus to do a game with Ohio State and Penn State, who they just did this past week. All because Herbie, Mr. Ohio State alum, wants it in Columbus. Or at least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So Herbie cost me a chance to be a celebrity picker by having game day at Notre Dame. Not that they would have asked me to be the celebrity picker, but at least I could have dreamt that.
Well, they might have asked you to be the
celebrity picker. They might have, but now you know what they're not going to do? They're not going to have me be the celebrity picker in Columbus.
I will say this.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Penn State is the better game.
No, it's not.
It's the bigger game.
No, it's not.
It is sort of almost.
I know
it's like an elimination game in the Big Ten. Right? If Penn State vaults this hurdle, then they're looking at, I don't want to look past anyone, but fairly smooth sailing on into a potential conference championship matchup with Wisconsin. If Ohio State wins, then they've made up all of their previous sins, and that Michigan game will probably be for themselves a chance to go on and play Wisconsin. And if they win, they're probably playing for the national title, or the college football playoff. So this feels like a CFP play.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
If either team loses, if Ohio State loses, they're out.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. If Ohio State loses, they're out.
If Penn State loses, there's still a chance.
If Penn State loses, there's a chance, but they're in big trouble.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
If Notre Dame loses, are they out?
Yes.
North Carolina State has one loss. If they lose, are they out?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Enough said.
Fair enough. So Golick is making the argument that was the bigger game.
Thanks, Herbie.
There. The game, I don't know why you're making this a Herbie thing.
Oh,
you're
come
on. Create a rift now with
behind
Herbie?
the scenes, Mr. Ohio State alum, Mr. Ohio State quarterback.
We don't have enough problems now. We need to have a fight with Herbie here.
Wait till tomorrow.
All right. According to FPI, the winner of Penn State, Ohio State has a 97% chance to win that half of the Big Ten and thus go on and play most likely Wisconsin. Overwhelmingly likely Wisconsin for the Big Ten title. And the winner of that game, I don't want to say is a lock to be in the Final Four, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty close. So this does feel a little bit like a playoff game.
Here's what I don't have is a 97% chance to be the celebrity picker with College Game Day at Ohio State.
You don't even have a 3% chance.
No, I don't.
So, which was left over on the other side.
You understand why I'm a little upset.
The last time it was at Notre Dame, who was the celebrity picker? Do you remember?
No.
Were you there? We were there. We went there.
We were there.
It was the year they went to the championship game.
Here's the thing. I think
it was the Stanford game. I want to say
one of the last contract we did. I think I had put in there if game day is ever a Notre Dame game, we have to go.
Yeah,
I was praying for that too. I thought maybe
we went.
Yeah,
but who was the celebrity picker?
I don't remember. When I'm not the celebrity picker, I don't care who it is.
But was it? Who would be Regis?
You know who was in town. I don't know.
Regis Philbin, Joe Montana. We all know the football players.
Yeah.
Who are the other really famous alums from Notre Dame who are not football players?
Condoleezza Rice. She's
big one.
Pretty big one.
That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Vince Vaughn. They had Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn was the celebrity picker. Did he go to Notre Dame? I know he was in Rudy.
No, he was in Rudy, and that's all that matters.
I don't know if he was actually.
Hey, are you laughing? What are you laughing at?
I'm not laughing at anything, but you would think.
No, you were laughing.
Someone.
You were just laughing. Vince Vaughn was in the movie Rudy.
Did he go to Notre Dame?
No, he didn't.
So you've got you have Condoleezza Rice, Regis Philbin, and a host of other people. But Vince Vaughn, who was in a fictitious account of a player,
and you know what?
Movie.
All those other people you named, when they're there, the players, Vince Vaughn was on the sideline. It's all some of those guys talked about because he was there when Mike and Jake
were. I get that. I love Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Vince Vaughn fan. I myself would rather hang out with Vince Vaughn than Regis or Condoleezza Rice, with no disrespect meant to either of them. But that said, you'd think you get someone who went to Notre Dame.
So does every single celebrity picker, did they go to that school? No.
Probably not.
No. So all of a sudden you got to pick on Notre Dame.
It just felt a little.
First Herbie, now you, both of you dumping on Notre Dame. Really
tad
nice.
askew. All right, let's move on from this. Let me play a Louis Riddick on Carson Wentz, and then we'll get back to where we were a moment ago. The Eagles with a terrific win last night. Wentz right now playing as well as any quarterback in the NFL. And I did throw the question out there, which is going to wind up being the better top-of-the-draft quarterbacks? Jameis and Mariota 3 years ago, Wentz and Goff 2 years ago. It's a pretty interesting little question.
Boy, that is a good question, yeah.
So I'd love to hear your take on that. And while you're thinking about it, I will play you Louis Riddick, who watched Carson Wentz last night and was impressed.
What he shows you is that he has such tremendous command of what's going on the football field. He's an extension of the coaching staff. You see him navigate the pocket here to be able to step up and then still see out of the corner of his eye, still see a receiver open in the corner of the end zone here and put it perfectly on the money as the running back converts the route and takes it up the field.
While he's getting hit.
Look, that's next level stuff. That's something you just don't see from a second-year player usually. That's why Carson Wentz is just special. This is the part that's the most impressive. He's just an extension of the coaching staff, and he is manipulating the offense in accordance with what he is seeing defensively and just taking it to the opposition here and just throwing absolute lasers for touchdowns.
You know, listen, I obviously think it's too early to answer your question, but it's a good question that we can keep charts on, obviously, as the years go on. You know, Jameis Winston, he threw a lot of interceptions his first year with 15. He threw a lot of interceptions last year with 18. Has 4 this year with 10 touchdowns. Did throw 28 touchdowns, though, last year. Marcus Mariota, he doesn't know how to throw an interception in the red zone. He's been unbelievable throwing the ball there.
Look, maybe the good news is they're all good.
Yeah,
and that bodes very well for the future of the National Football League because despite your protest, what everybody wants in football is good quarterback play. That said, the whole art of the draft is deciding one over the other. So if you were right now just drafting one quarterback class versus the other, just on potential, on their future, based exclusively on everything we've seen so far, I think I would go right now.
It's tough. And listen, it's tough. I mean, last year, Mariota with 26 touchdowns, just 9 interceptions. I mean, and doesn't throw them in the red zone. Jameis, you know, is going to throw some touchdowns, throw some good footballs. Man, that's a tough one.
I was about to say I would go with Jameis and Mariota, but I'm kind of pausing. I'm hesitating a little bit because the things we're seeing from Goff are really eye-opening. I mean,
you know what they are? They're unexpected.
Right.
Coming off of last year, so maybe you thought he would start to play better, but he's gone beyond what we thought we might get out of him after seeing last year or what happened last year. So jury's out. Listen, this isn't a question to answer now because
it is because it's Too Far Tuesday. There's nothing better than answering questions too far on a Tuesday. So I think right now I will stick with, if I had to pick one class versus the other, I would take the first one. I would take Winston and Mariota. But the other, the newer guys are coming on strong.
Just to be different, I'll go with this class of Wentz and Goff.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive celebrating 5 years and more than 500 cars donated to vets. To learn more, visit keystoprogress.com. Okay, we told you 2 guys said they were sorry. Not 100% sure in my case that either one of them had to. I was kind of kidding about T.Y. Hilton because I understood why he needed to say what he said, even though what he said was obviously right about how incredibly bad Indy's offensive line was on Sunday. The other one was from Deshaun Kaiser. Now, this is one where I deferred to you. Mm-hmm. You played in the league. You would have a much better understanding. This is where sometimes a lot of people who sit in my chair, which is to say those of us who didn't play these sports but cover them now, we get offended by well, you never played so you don't know stuff. There's no reason to be offended by this. This is stuff you would know that I wouldn't. Right. Will the other players in that locker room look askew at Deshaun Kaiser for being out on a Friday night?
No.
That's the kind of thing I don't know. And you said no, they won't.
No, they won't.
That to me is the only thing that matters. Doesn't make any difference what the fans think. Doesn't make any difference. Well, I guess it does matter what the coaches think.
Oh, yeah, it does.
But what matters is, will it actually have an impact on his ability to play in the game? And he said that he was in the facility all day Friday and was there when he was expected to be Saturday. So and it wasn't until fairly late in the day Saturday they were expected to be there. So to be out at a bar past midnight on a Friday night is no harm, no foul.
No, it's exactly right. Players go out. Again, I said the big night a lot of players go out is Thursday night. We would go out a little bit right after practice, hang out, have a few drinks, and then sometimes then guys would go from there. Other guys, some would go home, some would go out, but guys would go out Friday night as well, all depending on your circumstance, when you have to be in Saturday, what you're doing. And there was video of him. He was there. I don't even think he had a drink in his hand. Whether he was drinking or not, I'm not going to sit there.
But nothing terrible happened.
No, it wasn't a video like, oh my God, look at that. He was sitting there with a hat on in a bar, at like 1:30 in the morning. So, no, the teammates aren't going to look, askew at that, not at all. But as I said, it's from the optic side of it. It's something that he's going to have to decide. Okay, this is a bad team. I've been benched twice now. It's happened before the second benching, but I've now been benched twice. I've been benched once before this. Things haven't been going well. Do I want to be in a position where there's a camera phone everywhere going to take pictures of me? Even though I have every right to be out at this time, do I want to put myself and my team through that?
So here's what Kaiser said, and this is from Mary Kay Cabot of the Cleveland Plain Dealer. Quote, I've learned that this is a distraction. We're sitting here and talking about this, and teammates are coming up to me and asking me about this. There's so many cameras around here, it's going to be made a pretty big deal, and with that, it's on me to make sure from here on out I'm not a distraction, and I'm an asset to the team, and not a guy who's pulling away from the ultimate goal. Hugh Jackson said it wouldn't ultimately determine whether he'll start this week in London against the Vikings, and that the decision will come on Wednesday. Kaiser has already been benched 3 times this year. Here's what I'll say. Kaiser is playing terribly.
Yes, he is.
He's on a terrible team.
Yes, he is.
And I don't know what their plan is. I don't know what they were thinking. Why they didn't keep a veteran quarterback is mystifying to me. I mean, some things are second guesses, and some things everyone should have seen coming. You have a quarterback room of 3 guys whose combined age isn't 70 years old.
Yeah.
So if you're going to give the ball to Kaiser and say, okay, let's give this kid 1 year to see if he's going to be our quarterback, and if not, there's a bunch of guys who might take this year, why wouldn't you have one of the seemingly endless array of 30-something-year-old quarterbacks who hang around just to mentor young kids?
You had one in Josh McCown.
You had one in McCown. Now, McCown wanted to go somewhere that he could play. There was a story, actually, the guys on the broadcast this week said that McCown was offered a coaching job, a quarterback coaching job with the Browns to stick around and play that role for Kaiser this year, but he wanted to continue playing, and so he went to the Jets, and where he's actually playing well. But, I mean, a guy like Mark Sanchez, who they're keeping in Chicago only to tutor Mitchell Trubisky, because he's been there and done that and been through the ropes and knows how you prepare and how you study and all the things that a guy who's been a quarterback in the league for years knows and others don't. So the fact that they didn't keep that guy, whoever that guy is, that's a mistake that everyone should have seen coming.
I agree. You have 3 quarterbacks there who all need to learn, whether it's playing or whether it's in practice from a veteran or any situation like that, and they have none there. I completely agree with you on that. But what this does for Kaiser, as I said, the optics of it look bad.
Did you think you needed to apologize again? That's another one where sometimes you say what you feel like you've been pressured into saying.
You're reading. He didn't really apologize. He kind of said, I don't want to be the story. I don't want to be the distraction. I know I can't do that to the team. So it was kind of a de facto apology, not like T.Y. Hilton where he said, I went and found these guys and told them I'm sorry. I think this was just a rookie who realized, every move you make can be noted and can be videoed and can be out there. And while it's your right to go out, he probably has to be a little more, not probably, has to be a little more careful, especially when you're not on a good team. Because those that sit there and say should be studying his playbook or what, just stop. I mean, to think that anybody works their job 24/7 is a ridiculous notion. You put in your time and you put in your extra time, and then the guys go out. He's not the first nor the last guy that's going to be out late on a Friday night. But when you're a bad team and you're performing bad, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be asked a question. Why are you out that late? Do you think it had something to do with your performance? What does that say about your commitment to your teammates? You're going to get asked all those questions that I said about that would happen with T.Y. Hilton and the offensive line once that stuff goes public. And that's where the word distraction comes into play when you're answering things like that. When you need to really obviously try to improve as a football team, you got to answer that garbage.
Oh, by the way, Joe Thomas tweeted 11 minutes ago a picture of himself obviously prepped for surgery. You can see that he's in a hospital room and he's got a hair thing on.
Right.
And you can see he's about to get surgery, and he just tweeted, "Let's do this," with a big smile on his face. That guy, A, has the best attitude of any person I've ever met.
Does he have a
B,
great personality?
He may be the toughest person in the world.
Well, he's got
If I was about to undergo shoulder, whatever it is, surgery.
This is tricep
surgery,
yeah.
I mean, I would be, I think I'd be like cowering in the corner. What's the anesthetic going to be like? He's like, "Hey, let's do this. Come on. I'm having surgery." He looks like he's about to go on a ride at Disney World. He's about to have surgery.
It's going to be interesting, too. If he wants to come back, play, you're talking about him who came in a year before, Jason Peters, who's 35, got hurt last night in Philadelphia. Major surgery for Joe that's going to keep him out the rest of the year. We haven't heard yet the injury of Jason Peters, but I'm just going to tell you it didn't look good, and I would not expect him back this season, and what he's going to have to go through for guys that are both 9-time Pro Bowlers, guys who have been great for this league, and what their future holds.
By the way, Will Kane, who I'm guessing is listening because he just tweeted, but didn't at us, tweeted 2016 NFL draft quarterback class greater than, and he put 5 greater than signs, 2015 NFL draft quarterback class, and it's not close. So he's making the argument for Goff and Wentz over Jameis and Mariota.
I
could have added us on that.
Yeah, you could have added us. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. You're only, on the show all the time. Never mind, though. I don't mind that take, but not even close. I wouldn't say either way. If you want to choose Mariota and Winston over these two younger guys, I would say that's fine, but I wouldn't use not even close in any case on either side of this one. I do think it's pretty close.
Well, I guess it's occurring to me now that Will Kane is a Cowboys fan. Dak Prescott is in that class. Dak Prescott was drafted in 2016 also. So if you're going to include him, then obviously
no, we're not
better.
including him.
But that's
we're not
not what
doing
we're
that.
talking
no,
about.
It's not what we're talking about.
So let's. I mean, if you want, we didn't even really set it up as a question, but if you're going to make it a question, who's got the bigger upside, Jameis and Mariota or Goff and
Wentz? 1 and 2 versus 1 and 2
is
where we're looking.
If you're going to throw Dak in, obviously it's going to skew the whole thing in one direction. We're Mike and Mike. We're brought to you by Upside. Now save big on travel. Get a big gift card with every trip you buy. You'll love Upside.com. That's Upside.com. This Eric Bledsoe business. Well, I found this story hilarious to watch unfold yesterday. But speaking of it unfolding, I actually think that he may have an argument. Mm-hmm. So here's the way this thing goes. The Suns get off to another bad start. They're in their 9th different stage of rebuilding. And they fired their coach after 3 games. And right around the time that they fired their coach, Eric Bledsoe just tweets, "I don't want to be here." Now, immediately everyone assumes he's saying, "I don't want to be in Phoenix anymore." Right. He's making a statement.
And before the season started, he said he wanted out of there, wanted to trade. So it's not like, people were shocked if they thought he was associating that with the team.
So this is brought up to Ryan McDonough, the general manager of the Suns, who says he talked to Bledsoe about it, and he does not believe Bledsoe's story. Bledsoe says that the reason that he tweeted that is because he was in a hair salon with, to quote Brian McDonough, his girl, and Bledsoe just was tweeting, "I don't want to be here." And we have evidence that suggests that might actually be a viable story. Let me play you the Brian McDonough sound first.
You guys saw his tweet last night. I gave him a call last night and asked him about that tweet and, just to clarify what he meant by it. And he said he was at a hair salon. It wasn't about the Suns or anything related to the Suns. He said he was at a hair salon with this girl and he didn't want to be there anymore. So I don't believe that to be true. So we thought about it, talked about it with Robert and my staff and Coach Triano and his staff, and decided it's what's best for the organization. So he won't be with us, going forward.
Okay, so he doesn't believe it to be true.
Right.
However, Mike Golick has done a little investigative journalism, otherwise known as looking at someone's timeline.
That's exactly right.
And look what he's found.
Eric Bledsoe's timeline. Now, again, you see the tweet, "I don't want to be here." Really no context of it. It didn't, hashtag Suns, Phoenix Suns, anything like that. Mm-hmm. Just said, "I don't want to be here." Suns thought it was about them, and he said, I was at the hair salon, didn't want to be here. So I have 7 tweets from Eric Bledsoe from January 20. These aren't all his tweets, but I picked these out from between January 29th and September 30th. These are, with no context at all, these are the 7 different tweets. Patience. I need it with prayer hands. This one hurt. Only going to make me stronger. Wow. Thank God. I'm so tired. No context, no about anything, no hashtag, anything. So you didn't really know. This is kind of what he does. As some of our guys said, he's kind of a boring tweeter. But there's no context to those. So could he have been telling the truth?
Do you believe that he was actually in a hair salon? We all been there.
Listen, I've been
sitting there. You're reading the magazine.
I'm not going to lie. When we're out in Arizona, my wife gets her hair done. Our guy Ricky does it. He's a great guy. Love him. He was.
I met him at your wedding.
At the wedding,
Jake's wedding.
They have cookies at that salon.
So you enjoy it.
So I sit there and I enjoy it. I enjoy the company of Ricky. And
I love where I am right now.
Yeah,
with no context whatsoever. Then you might say, well, everyone would say, oh, Golic wants to move to Arizona.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
He's happy sitting in the salon eating the cookies while Ricky is doing.
Is there
Chris's hair?
Is there any chance you believe him?
Yes, I do.
You believe him?
I believe him.
There are so many. All those tweets.
I believe
no context.
I actually do. Call me ridiculous. I believe him.
Again, he did say before the season he wanted out. This was right before the coach got fired.
And yet, this is future Nick Eric Bledsoe tweeting, I don't want to be here. And listen, I've sat there. When Stacey's in there, more often with Stacey, it's shopping. She's trying on clothes, and I am sitting, and, you're in that little chair. There's never a really comfortable place to sit. You're reading a magazine like it's an old magazine. The corner has been torn out because someone left it there and took their little subscription address off of it.
Yeah.
It's not a great experience. I don't want to be there either when it's happening.
I could see it happening, but now Bledsoe, so he's not part of the Suns. He's not traded. So he gets to sit around and make money, which is the dream of all of us.
And
do
yet,
nothing and make money.
what winds up happening is they've just made it harder for themselves to trade him because everyone knows they have to.
Yep.
Well done, guys.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance. So you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
All right, he is on his way out west where the Dodgers and Astros will play Game 1 of the World Series tonight. It's expected to be close to 100 degrees in L.A., and trying to keep cool will be the Commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, who joins us early this morning on Mike and Mike. Hello, Commissioner.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing well.
Well, we're fine, but we're worried about you here. Obviously, heat is a consideration. Forget about the players. They'll be fine, but it's you that I'm concerned about sitting there in the luxury box. Give us a sense of the, you got to be hydrating right now. Give us a sense of all the precautions and the preparation that you're doing for the steamy temperatures in Los Angeles tonight.
You don't need to spend a lot of time worrying about my well-being. I'll be fine. It is amazing, though, the idea that we're going to play a World Series game at these temperatures, sort of unprecedented, but it will be interesting tonight.
Please tell me, though, I know you commissioners love to be in your coat and ties and look nice, and you really do, but there are really nice polos out there that you could get for this type of heat. Is there any thought process to that tonight?
I think you will see me in a suit and tie tonight. It is the World Series, and there's certain things that just go along with the job.
All right. You can change your clothes, though. You're gonna need that. You probably need like 2 or 3 different shirts during the course of the game.
That's exactly right. Certainly some serious notes about this game, not just the play, but one of the cities involved in Houston and some players from Puerto Rico as well. We know the devastation that has gone on in both areas. So what does baseball have planned as far as those situations are concerned?
Well, we've been very active with respect to hurricane relief in both locations. In Houston, Jim Crane and the Astros donated $4 million. They had specific on-the-ground programs to put together backpacks for kids to go back to school. Just a phenomenal effort in the community. Major League Baseball gave $1 million in Houston, another $1 million in Puerto Rico. In addition, baseball and a number of individual clubs have arranged planes and brought pallets of food and supplies into Puerto Rico. Carlos Beltran set up a foundation with $1 million of his own money, tremendous generosity. And throughout the postseason, T-Mobile has been running a promotion where they're donating $10,000 for each home run hit in the hope that they'll get to $1 million for hurricane relief.
So that's the backdrop here, and obviously great work being done by a lot of different people as the games get underway tonight. The Commissioner, Rob Manfred, is with us. I'm looking at numbers everywhere I look. The arrows are pointing in the direction you want them to be. TV ratings in this postseason are up 13% from this time a year ago. You had the four biggest markets in America as your Final Four this year, and you get the Dodgers and the Astros. So in the World Series here, which is a compelling matchup. So generally speaking, if you were to assess the way this postseason has gone from where you sit as the Commissioner, how do you feel?
Well, we feel great about our postseason. Obviously, we had a tremendous finish last year with the Cubs winning the World Series, and it was hard to figure out how we were going to follow on with that. But we were very fortunate. We had some great teams. I mean, the Cleveland story was an unbelievable story leading into the playoffs. It was great to get the Yankees back in the playoffs, and we couldn't be happier with the way that the postseason's performed on TV.
Let me just say quickly, the last year did not end that well as my Cleveland Indians lost. I don't care about the 108 years and all that, so cry me a river. I wanted my Indians to win. That said, I'm sorry, I just had to say that. So looking back on the season, as we look at some of the big picture things, you've talked about, pace of play on this show and many other shows as well. The average 9-inning game in the majors went up 4.5 minutes. And I know it's not so much the time. We've talked about that, but the pace the game is moving at. Where are you with that as far as being satisfied, unsatisfied, and where it may go in the future?
Well, we're not satisfied with where we are in terms of what went on in the regular season. I am pleased that we've had very constructive dialogue with the MLBPA. That dialogue's ongoing. I really do expect that we'll have a set of rule changes for next year that will be helpful for us. Number of topics that I've talked to you guys about in the past, sort of on the table. Exactly what ends up in the agreement, I'm not in a position to predict right now, but I do think we will have some change that will be helpful on that topic.
Was limitation on pitching changes part of that conversation? I mean, I remember we had that conversation with you one time on the show, and now I can't recall if that's something that was legitimately on the table. Is that part of the discussion?
That's one that is not part of the discussion. No. I think the way I would summarize the topics that are out there are really dead time topics. We're talking about things where it does not affect the way the game is played on the field. Obviously pitching changes could have a competitive impact, and we think we have enough that can be accomplished on the dead time front that we don't need to go there right now.
I would be curious to know, just conceptually, there's such a difference in the aura and the feel and clearly the significance of postseason games versus regular season games. Would there ever be a set of circumstances where you could see different rules in the postseason? I made the comment a couple of different times during these playoffs that the drama that is connected with these playoff games makes every part of every one of these pitching changes so exciting and dramatic, and the strategy of it is so fascinating that might not have the same feel over the course of 162. Could you ever foresee a circumstance where you had a different set of rules in the postseason versus the regular season?
Well, let me agree with part of your premise. I do think, and we try not to talk about pace of play in the postseason for the simple reason that, that extra mound visit, that extra pitching change, or the pitcher taking a little more time to deliver a pitch, we don't worry about that in the postseason because everything is so important, so dramatic. Having said that, while we see the postseason differently, I think it's important from an integrity perspective, and I think it will always be the case that we'll play the postseason under the same rules that play the regular season.
I would completely agree with that. I wouldn't touch the postseason. I think it's fantastic. I completely agree with you there. Again, the regular season, you had record home runs, record strikeouts. Seems to be the all or nothing league from that sense. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a product of, people adopting particular strategies that they think are effective to win. It's a product of the way the game's being taught to young people. I suspect over time, you will see the game adjust and we'll move back in the direction of the type of play that we've seen historically. There's always smart people figuring out new ways to win, and one of the great things about baseball is the game seems to have an endless capacity to self-adjust.
Mike and Mike, Rob Manfred is with us on his way to Los Angeles. Dodgers, Astros, Game 1 World Series tonight. Remember, every pitch is here on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. Our coverage tonight starts at 7 Eastern. Another topic that came up under the most unfortunate of circumstances was the issue of protective netting in the sport. And we know I've seen a couple of other teams, or a couple of teams have announced since the season ended they're going to go with more of that after the incident where the little girl got hit. From the perspective of the Office of Major League Baseball, where do you stand right now on protective netting?
Well, we are working with the clubs. I said after what was a horrible incident in Yankee Stadium that, we would redouble our efforts. We're working with the clubs individually. As you noted, a number of them have announced already additional netting, and we think that's a great thing. We're working with a number of other clubs to encourage them to move in that direction, and I think you'll see a lot of change on that topic before opening day next year.
That's something, because I never know, with obviously with league, with unions and all that, some things involves both. A situation like this, is it how can you just get involved and make the determination? Does it have to be each individual owner? There are a lot of questions coming out about that when that happened, about different teams wanting to do that. What would be a process?
Right. Well, we have some guidelines out there for the clubs right now. We issued new guidelines shortly after I became commissioner. I've been reluctant to mandate netting just for the simple reason that each stadium is very different, and it's hard to come up with a single rule that fits for everybody. But I think that it's certainly something that we will talk about again during this offseason in terms of making sure we moved forward on this issue adequately. But it is something that I could order.
I like.
All right, I like that.
You know
too.
what? It's good to have that in your hip pocket that you could order that. I
like any
that.
phrase in which the last sentence is, it is something I could order.
Yeah.
Well, you find yourself to be more persuasive on the topic if you, in fact, have that in your back pocket.
I would agree with that.
It's a good thing.
We appreciate your time this morning. Last question. Now we ask all our guests this is, who's going to win the World Series? How many games?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not in the prediction business generally, but I'll do it. So I'm going to stay away from it. There's no win in that predicting business for me. So I hope we have 7 games is my deepest hope.
That's what I was going to say. The big win is the 7th game of the World Series. Commissioner, enjoy it. Travel safe today. And keep cool tonight. It's going to be hot out there. Thanks very much, as always.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
That's Rob Manfred, Commissioner, Major League Baseball, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold.
Just wanted to see if I can catch him off guard. Do you imagine if he said Dodgers in 6?
Yeah.
You think that would have made the headline?
He'll say anyone in 7. I have a variety of thoughts on that. Every answer he gave is the right answer.
Solve baseball again?
No, there's nothing to solve.
Okay.
But there are a few things. Let me just throw a couple of things at you. I'm going to make a few cases for you,
okay,
and you'll shoot them down, and then we'll just move on with our day. Right after this, stay there, Mike and Mike. I know you're going to call me crazy, but it would not be unprecedented. There are places in sports where we have different rules in the playoffs than we have in the regular season. The most obvious one that jumped immediately to my mind is in soccer, where these games are determined by penalty kicks when they're in the pool play, and then when they get to, the knockout stage, you have to have a winner, so they go into extra time. Same thing happens in pro football. An NFL game they play a 10-minute overtime now, and it can end in a tie. In the playoffs, it can't. Those are specific to requiring a winner. I understand that,
right.
And the rules are not otherwise different. But I will say this: the level of excitement of every moment of a baseball game in the postseason is so vastly different from the feel of a regular season game that I genuinely believe I would consider limitations on pitching changes during the regular season and relax that rule, meaning lift it entirely in the playoffs. Because every pitching change in the playoffs is an exciting event.
I agree with that.
Every pitching change in the regular season, when you get 3 pitchers in a single inning, you could smash your head into a wall. I mean, you're just sitting and you're waiting, and that is dead time. What they're trying to eliminate is dead time. It's not how long the game actually takes to be played. This year, between the strikeouts and the home runs, Hembo sent me a note, and this is something they can't do anything about right now. Or I mean, maybe they can do something about it, but I don't know what it is. About the amount of time there is between the action, if you will. Can you resend me that? I lost the note here. But Hembo sent it to me. Here it is. Games this season saw an average gap of 3 minutes and 48 seconds between balls in play, an all-time high. And it's a lot. And part of that is that everything is a strikeout or a walk. And then, so that another thing is the constant going to the bullpen. And I understand it. You got 6 guys in there and they can all throw 100. I would go get them too if I'm the manager. It's another case where I think you could consider making a rule that was different in the regular season from the playoffs.
Yeah, listen.
Tell me I'm crazy.
No, you're not crazy. Because it's been done already. It's not like you're reinventing the wheel here. It's just figuring out what's going to work best. As we just mentioned, there are different rules for the regular season and postseason. So it's nothing new. It's just a matter of what you pick or what you choose to do. And if that's one of them, I know that's one thing that's been talked about that I could see happening. Now, I'm sure baseball managers and teams will fight back and say, well, wait a minute. This can be important for us to win this game. And we have seen seasons go 162, and we got to play one more to see if we're in the playoffs. So every game we keep talking about, it's only game 24, it's only game 82, it's only game, 104. But don't tell that to the manager. Who's
I understand
trying to
that,
get
which
their
is
team
why
in the
you change
postseason.
the rule, and then every team is playing by the same rules.
Right.
It's the same for everybody. So it's not as though one team necessarily has an advantage, and you could design your rosters accordingly. Look, it's never going to happen. He just said, I can't see a circumstance where we have different rules, and he just said he doesn't anticipate limitations on relievers. And if I was sitting where he's sitting, I probably wouldn't either. It's the kind of thing that a dopey fan like me thinks.
What's difficult is I get what you're saying. So if your starter gets blasted in 2 innings, you want to get him out of there, but saying, hey, you only have X amount of changes. But what if it's an injury?
Well, no, what I'm talking about is limitations during innings, which is to say you can have as many pitches as you want in a game.
But just not changes during the inning. Okay, I got you.
I think that's a consideration to make. Again, I don't know exactly how I do it. I haven't sat and thought it through thoroughly. I haven't put together a committee to study this as they probably have and certainly could if they wanted to. So we'll see. Anyway, looking forward to the World Series starting tonight. The road to the series goes right through ESPN Radio. Catch all the postseason action presented by AutoZone on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and on the ESPN app. So Will Kane has added us.
Oh, thank you, Will.
He added us. He then, after we mocked him, he tweeted, "Here's an @ for you, Mike and Mike. Why are you leaving out Dak?" And then he responded, even counting just the top 2, I would take the 16 class maybe on Wentz alone. If you were to include Dak, then yeah, you're talking about 3 young star quarterbacks versus 2. All we're really talking about is the top of the draft. You're the number 1 and 2 pick in consecutive years. That's who's going to be compared against each other for the longest time, probably. Now, Dak did come later in that class. But the reason I think that we all think of Roethlisberger and Eli and Rivers together, and that we all think of Marino and Elway and Kelly together, is they were all first-rounders together. Yeah. Dak was a 4th-rounder who has greatly exceeded expectations. And maybe he winds up being the best of them all.
He may,
we'll wait and see.
But we're talking there's first rounders, and then we're specifically going. These guys are 1-2 picks each. So I think you can make an argument for either of them right now, but I certainly wouldn't go so far as to say it's not even close one way or the other. I do think it's close, but, time will still tell.
Adam Schefter just tweeted some encouraging news on offensive tackle Jason Peters.
Really?
Eagles do not believe he tore his ACL per source. MRI this morning to see.
Boy, that would be, because they brought the immobilizer out, the cart out. He was in a ton of pain. It came down on the side of the knee. I thought for sure that was gone. So, boy, that would be fantastic. You can only hope. You never want to see injury anywhere. You can only hope it's not as serious as what it looked like on the field.
And there's a lot of stuff in here also about Eric Bledsoe. Amin Al-Hassan, who used to work for the Suns, said he believes that Bledsoe's hair salon story is true. I do, too. I do, too. Now, he said also that Amin says he doesn't know that it wasn't also calculated, meaning he knew what the reaction would be, even though he gave himself, the plausible deniability. I believe him. What can I say? I've sat in that chair reading that magazine. I didn't want to be there either. We continue in a moment, Mike and Mike.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or